Forgive me, beloved, for the tears I've sown, for the silence that chilled your tender tone. Forgive me for nights when I walked away, when your gentle heart begged me to stay. Forgive me for words I never spoke, for promises broken, for vows I broke. Forgive me for letting the distance grow, for not holding you tight, for letting go. Forgive me for dreams I left undone, for battles lost before they'd begun. Forgive me for shadows that dimmed our light, for turning our mornings into endless night. Forgive me for pride that stood in the way, for pushing your love so far away. Forgive me for eyes that did not see the treasure you were right next to me. Forgive me for anger sharp and cold, for stories untold, for hands not to hold. Forgive me for running when I should fight, for hiding in darkness instead of light. Forgive me, darling, for not being near, when storms surrounded, when you lived in fear. Forgive me for walls I built too high, when all you asked was the open sky. Forgive me for time that slipped like sand, when I should have reached for your waiting hand. Forgive me for selfishness, blind and true, for thinking of me instead of you. Forgive me for laughter that turned to stone, when your smile longed to meet my own. Forgive me for secrets I did not share, for silence that said I did not care. Forgive me for wounds I carved in your soul, for forgetting that love must make us whole. Forgive me for chasing illusions away, when the truth of your heart asked me to stay. Forgive me for nights you wept alone, for cold empty sheets, for the barren tone. Forgive me for missing the song of your voice, for leaving you without a choice. Forgive me for doubts that clouded the air, for not showing daily how much I care. Forgive me for leaving the words unsaid, that burned like fire inside my head. Forgive me for breaking a fragile trust, for turning gold into fragile dust. Forgive me for letting the silence grow, for not being brave enough to show. Forgive me for every unspoken plea, for not being the one you wanted me to be. Forgive me for shadows haunting the day, for pushing your sunshine far away. Forgive me for chains I wrapped around, for caging a love so free and profound. Forgive me for not seeing the truth, for wasting the light of eternal youth. Forgive me for scars that will never fade, for debts of love I never repaid. Forgive me, darling, my heart is bare, take my soul for it's always there. Forgive me for drowning in foolish pride, when I should have been right by your side. Forgive me for closing the open door, for asking for less when you gave me more. Forgive me for wounds I can't erase, for shadows that linger, for empty space. Forgive me for not being strong enough, for turning the smooth path into rough. Forgive me for moments that passed away, for words I saved for another day. Forgive me for breaking your gentle trust, for leaving your love to turn to dust. Forgive me, darling, I fall to the floor. A beggar of love I ask once more. Forgive me, heal me, let us be new, for all that I am belongs to you. Forgive me for every forgotten kiss, for every moment of stolen bliss. Forgive me for distance, for walking blind, for leaving your tender heart behind. Forgive me for battles I failed to fight, for not holding you tight through the night. Forgive me for silence, sharp and deep, for promises broken, for vows I keep. Forgive me for hurting the one I adore, for locking my heart and closing the door. Forgive me for shadows I cannot mend, but take me, beloved, until the end. Forgive me for pain I placed in your chest, when you gave me your soul, your very best. Forgive me for moments I lost the way, for not chasing your tears away. Forgive me for being too weak to see that love is all, that love is free. Forgive me for pride that tore us apart, but never erased you from my heart. Forgive me for time, unkind and long, for singing silence instead of song. Forgive me for nights I wandered alone, when all I needed was you, my home. Forgive me for failing the test of years, for covering your smile with endless tears. Forgive me for not being the man you need, for planting sorrow instead of seed. Forgive me for silence that cut like a blade, for unspoken words that should have stayed. Forgive me for letting your heart grow cold, when it should have been wrapped in love untold. Forgive me for all that I cannot repair, for not being present, for not being there. Forgive me for shadows I cannot chase, for every sorrow on your face. Forgive me, darling, for one last plea. Forgive the broken. Forgive me, for in your mercy, I find my light, to walk with you into endless night. Forgive me, for I am yours to the end, a sinner, a lover, a soul to mend. Forgive me, beloved, my final song, for in your arms is where I belong. Forgive me, my love, for the nights I was cold, when your warmth was near, but I failed to hold. Forgive me for turning my face to the sky, instead of wiping the tears from your eye. Forgive me for letters I never sent, for love I hoarded but never spent. Forgive me for silence, heavy and deep, for dreams I broke when you fell asleep. Forgive me for pride, the sharpest knife, cutting the roots of our blooming life. Forgive me for anger that should have died. Forgive me, beloved, for foolish pride. Forgive me for nights you whispered my name, while I sat in shadows, burdened with shame. Forgive me for songs I never sang, for bells of joy that never rang. Forgive me for not being strong for you, for doubting the love I always knew. Forgive me for closing the door so fast, for letting the present drown in the past. Forgive me for smiles I failed to give, for moments lost that we should live. Forgive me for turning our gold to dust, for breaking the temple of perfect trust. Forgive me, beloved, for letting you cry, for not spreading wings so we could fly. Forgive me for chains that bound your heart, when all you asked was a brand new start. Forgive me for being a stranger near, for holding your hand but not being here. Forgive me for words I kept inside, for letting the river of love subside. Forgive me for storms I could not calm, for not placing balm in your tender palm. Forgive me for turning our night to gray, for letting the light of hope decay. Forgive me, darling, for standing still, when love demanded a stronger will. Forgive me for shadows I did not chase, for sorrow I carved on your gentle face. Forgive me for laughter I did not hear, for not drawing closer, for standing clear. Forgive me for failing the test of time, for turning music into a rhyme. Forgive me for choices that brought you pain, for letting your sunshine drown in rain. Forgive me for moments I let you down, for wearing silence like a crown. Forgive me, love, for the paths I chose, for turning roses into throws. Forgive me for letting your trust decay, for walking too far away. Forgive me for every forgotten word, for singing songs you never heard. Forgive me for giving you half of me, when you deserved infinity. Forgive me for hunger I did not feed, for not planting hope as a seed. Forgive me for leaving your soul in cold, when I should have wrapped you in purest gold. Forgive me for battles I could not fight, for failing to stand by you through night. Forgive me for letting your voice fade, for not honoring the vows we made. Forgive me for steps that walked astray, for guiding my heart the wrong way. Forgive me for building walls too tall, for not letting you break them all. Forgive me for letting my fear command, when I should have held your hand. Forgive me for not being the man you need, for planting sorrow as a seed. Forgive me, darling, I beg of you. Forgive the lies that were never true. Forgive me for shadows I cannot mend, but take me now until the end. Forgive me for tears I never dried, for nights you broke, and I just sighed. Forgive me for letting your heart bleed, for not being there in time of need. Forgive me for losing the sacred way, for turning colors into gray. Forgive me for failing the gift of years, for covering your smile with endless tears. Forgive me for silence, harsh and cruel, for playing the coward, playing the fool. Forgive me for not seeing the flame that burned inside your gentle name. Forgive me for letting our song grow weak, for not kissing your tear-stained cheek. Forgive me for silence, for being blind, for leaving your loving soul behind. Forgive me for not being brave enough, for turning sweet into bitter and rough. Forgive me, love, I fall at your feet, with broken words, my heart repeats. Forgive me, for I am a man undone, chasing a shadow, losing the sun. Forgive me, beloved, my soul is true, forever broken, forever for you.